I recently got into a serious car accident and now I suffer from Capgras delusion.
The Capgras delusion is a delusion that a close loved one has been replaced by an identical-looking imposter. It is classified as a delusional misidentification syndrome, a class of delusional beliefs that involve the misidentifications of people, places, or objects. The delusion was identified by a man named Joseph Capgras when a French woman believed there was an imposter acting as her husband. He described it as an illusion of doubles. Some people also believe time has been warped or substituted. It usually occurs in women, people who are schizophrenic, or suffer serious brain injury.
Now for a little mystery story, but this one isn't a whodunit. It's more of a who are you? And it comes to us from our friends at Radiolab.
Hey, Renee.
Hello there. That's Jada Boomrod from WNYC. And Robert Krowich, are you there?
Yes, I'm here too. And I should mention that Radiolab is a show where we get kind of curious, explore ideas, we argue sometimes.
And sometimes we like to tell stories that give us an unusual peek into the world around us.
Well, let's turn then to this mystery story. What is the nature of the mystery?
Well, the first thing I should tell you is it's not just one today. It's two stories.
Told by two different people.
I am V.S. Ramachandran at the University of California, San Diego.
Okay, my name is Dr. Carol Berman. I'm at NYU Medical Center. I'm a psychiatrist.
And we start with Carol Berman.
My patient, who is this 37-year-old patient, comes back to her house and sits next to this man who's wearing a red plaid shirt, trucking boots.
She looks at this guy. She's just not sure what to make of him.
I think the jeans she recognized and the boots, and she takes a look at him and says, "Who are you?" And he says to her, "Well, who are you? Come over here, give me a kiss."
So she leans in, a little tentatively, gives him a kiss. But it feels wrong. Everything about this situation feels wrong.
She was thinking this is some strange man who's sitting here in, her husband's clothing, and she was wondering what he was doing in her apartment.
Okay, so now we want you to hear a second story. This one comes from Dr. V.S. Ramachandran.
I saw a patient not long ago, was in coma 2 weeks, a student on our campus, came out of the coma, a little bit slowed down, but overall quite intact. But here's the problem. When he looks at his mother, he says, "Doctor, this woman looks exactly like my mother, but she's an imposter."
An imposter?
She is an imposter. She's some other woman pretending to be my mother.
Now, is this person his actual mother?
It is his mother. And
he just doesn't think that his mother is really his mother.
Yeah.
This person looked like her husband, but there was something about him.
Like the feeling you have?
Right, the feeling, or there's a certain essence. The soul of the person isn't in there.
So it turns out that these two people are suffering from the same delusion.
Capgras delusion.
Pronounced like Capgras.
And these kinds of Capgras delusions appear sometimes with brain injuries, or sometimes just out of the blue. But the result is almost always that you feel like your loved ones have been replaced by imposters.
Jad, Robert.
Yes.
That sounds really
Spooky.
creepy. I mean, it has to be a rare thing, or at least I'm hoping it is.
Well, we don't really know the exact numbers. It can go hand in hand with other disorders, so some doctors will look at it but then overlook it. And it's certainly unusual.
And do we know why people with Capgras feel this way? Why their brains play this trick on them?
Actually, no one is really sure why it happens, but there are a couple of different ways of explaining what's going on inside these people's heads.
We explain it psychologically. There might be some negative aspects of the person that you don't want to recognize. Like maybe my patient, saw some negative things in her husband that she didn't want to recognize. So when the negative aspects came in, he had to be a completely different person for her to, because she couldn't, you know what I mean?
So on some level, you think it's a kind of denial.
Right.
So it'd be like, Robert, if there was something about you that I just couldn't handle.
You couldn't quite.
The only way I could deal with it psychologically was to make a break and to say, oh, well, that's not the Robert I know.
Therefore, it isn't Robert at all. It's some fraud.
Yeah, it's a fake.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the psychiatrist's explanation. Now here is how the neuroscientist explains it.
I think what's happening is something quite specific. You can explain this in terms of the known circuitry in the brain. The visual centers in the brain funnel in information to the fusiform gyrus, where you recognize your mother or a dog or a table or a chair. Then the message goes to the amygdala, which gauges the emotional relevance of what you're looking at for you.
So mom is a face I recognize as mom and a set of feelings that I associate with mom.
Correct. Absolutely. Now, what happens is, in this patient, because of the head injury, that wire is cut.
So then no mommy feeling.
No mommy feeling. So you say, my God, if this is my mom, she looks like my mom, but I have no feelings. There's something really weird here. She must be an imposter. Now, that's a very far-fetched delusion. Why doesn't she just say, she doesn't feel like mom, but of course she's my mom?
Yeah, why doesn't he do that?
Because our thought processes are much more dependent on our gut-level emotional feelings than we realize.
So, absent a familiar feeling of mom, some part of my brain says, that's your mother. And some part of it says, no, it can't be.
Yeah, and the equation that says it can't be is from your emotions wins.
But now here's the twist.
Now, if she goes to the next room, speaks to him on the phone, he says, Mom, where are you? How are you? It's wonderful to talk to you. Right? Now, why would that be? The reason is there's a separate wire going from the auditory regions in the brain to the amygdala, emotional centers. That wire was not cut.
So what you hear can be very familiar, but if you see it, then you got a problem.
Yeah. We're highly visual creatures. We pay much more attention to vision, give much more weight to vision than to hearing and to voice. So you say, she sounds a little bit like my mother. I don't know why, but she's obviously an imposter. And of course, this is very alarming to the parents.
Tell me if you don't feel comfortable talking about this, but I understand that you have personal experience with Capgras delusions?
Yeah, actually my husband, he started not recognizing other people first, and then at some points he didn't even think I was his wife. I'm very sad and upset and stressed out by the whole situation. You know, when I get home and I kiss my husband and say, "Hi, how are you today?" And I hope he's recognizing me, but you never know what you're going to get when you get back home.
Well, that was unexpected. Jad,
Yeah.
Could you have thought any of that when you were speaking to her as a professional?
No, I mean, that caught us off guard.
Can you imagine what it'd be like to be her? She has that at work, and then she has that at home.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So is there anything that can be done to treat it?
Medication sometimes does help, but the truth is for a lot of Capgras patients, there's no treatment, and no amount of talk or reasoning seems to help.
You see my friend over there? She can't possibly be my friend. She's an imposter.
No, I'm your friend Jill. I'm not an imposter.
Some patients can also have misplaced feelings toward the imposter. This concept was adopted in the classic film Invasion of the Body Snatchers in 1956. However, the feeling that their loved ones were being replaced by an imposter wasn't just a feeling. Their loved ones were actually replaced. This concept was adopted in the classic film Invasion of the Body Snatchers in 1956. However, the feeling that their loved ones were being replaced by an imposter wasn't just a feeling. Their loved ones were actually replaced.
I went to sleep, Miles, when it happened.
Oh, Becky.
They were right.
I should never have left you.
Stop acting like a fool, Miles, and accept us.
No. Never.
He's in here! He's in here! Get him! Get him!
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life. But I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky. A moment's sleep and the girl I loved was an inhuman enemy bent on my destruction. That moment's sleep was death to Becky's soul, just as it had been for Jack and Teddy and Dan Kaufman and all the rest. Their bodies were now hosts, harboring an alien form of life, a cosmic form, which to survive must take over every human man. So I ran as little Jimmy Grimaldi had run the other day. My only hope was to get away from Santa Mira, to get to the highway, to warn the others of what was happening.
Wait! Come on, we gotta go! Wait, let him go. They'll never believe me.
Help! 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 Wait! Help! 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 Wait! Wait! Stop! Stop! Stop and listen to me! Listen to me! need your help. Something terrible has happened.
Come on, you drunk. Get out of the street. Get out of here. Come on.
Are you crazy, you bigoted?
Look! You fools! You're in danger! Can't you see? They're after you! They're after all of us! Our wives, our children, everyone! They're here already! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next!
The Delusion has also been part of other television shows, such as Criminal Minds.
All of the Milgram's cars are still here, so he must have taken the General in whatever vehicle he came in.
You know, he talked about gaslighting. He thinks someone's trying to purposely distort his reality.
He said his parents had been replaced.
He just sounds delusional.
You know, he might have Capgras syndrome. It's a delusional disorder in which one believes that their friends and loved ones have been replaced by imposters.
Sort of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It typically involves only one sense, such as sight. Basically, the neural connection between the visual cortex and the emotional center of the brain becomes severed so that looking at a loved one doesn't elicit the same emotional response one would expect.
So you think that they're an imposter?
And the interesting thing is that the auditory connection remains intact, so that if they were to hear a loved one speak and not see them, they'd think that they were real.
What causes this syndrome?
It's unknown in 60% of the cases, but the rest have an organic cause, such as tumor or head trauma.
He was in a car accident Friday.
People with delusional disorders don't all become killers, though.
True, but Dolan's background as a Navy SEAL, his knowledge of secret missions, plus Capgras syndrome could result in extreme paranoia. It's the perfect storm.
Is there a cure for this?
Unfortunately, no, although medications have helped in a few cases.
So this guy's stuck with it. He's not killing for the thrill of it. He does it because he believes he has no other choice.
He murdered his best friend and his parents because he believed they were imposters. So if he were to see his wife and daughter, the results would be deadly.
Dolan kidnapped the general and didn't kill his wife because he had never met them before. Well, there might be another reason. He wants contact.
Sadly, there's not much treatment for Capgras delusion. However, people who receive the delusion alongside other mental disorders can sometimes be treated by medication.